this lesson of the Working with Demons course, I'm going to share with you how you can set up an altar for working with the demons. Now, I'll give you a couple of different options because everyone's on different budgets, and or maybe you can't have a permanent altar in your house, and or perhaps children in your house and you need to work outside, so you need to create a portable altar. And so I'm going to give you a few ideas in this lesson on what you can do so you can stay authentic and yet you can still give praise and feel like you're participating in your beliefs, in our beliefs right now. Now, behind me, this altar here that's set up, this is more for spell casting. And there is a difference between how I set up my altars for spell casting and how I set up my altar for more praise and offerings and gratitude. You don't have to do that. I'm just going to give you lots of different options in this video. I'm also going to share with you something right now that you've probably heard before, and that is if you're working more of the Satanist style, you're going to be facing west when you probably set up your altar or do your rituals. So I'd be facing west. For me right now, I'd be facing this way. And I actually do have a more of a satanic altar, more than this one here, set up in a westerly direction. My Luciferian altar, or my one for Lucifer, is going to be set up in the east. So I'll be facing the east. And if you're not sure where that is, get a compass, or an iPhone has a compass. I don't know about the other Androids and all of that stuff, but work it out yourself. So typically, as a heads up, they're the directions that you'll be facing your altar. As you begin to work with other demons, you'll find out that they have a preferred direction. All of this it's important, but if you're really stuck on what to do or you're not sure, say you're taking a walk somewhere and you're wanting to connect with the spirit, don't let this stop you. It's just, for example, if you're a Muslim and you want to pray, you've got to have your pray mat face towards the Kaaba, or however you pronounce that. And, you know, and all Muslims will pray to that direction. It's sort of like the best thing that you should do as a Muslim if you're praying. And it's the same if we're praising Lucifer or praising Satan or praising one of our demons. It's ideal that we face their direction. But if we don't face that direction, are they going to give us the time of day? I'd say yes. So now I'm going to take you into another space so I can show you how to set up an altar if you're on a budget, or if you need to set up a portable altar so you could take it outside. I'm going to give you a few tips there. Okay, so now I'm going to talk to you about temporary altars, or altars that you can carry outside, or maybe altars that you need to hide away because of one reason or another. Now, I'm also going to assume for this lesson that you could be on a budget, okay? So I've collected a few things around the home that you can actually use if you are on a budget, and I'm just saying to give you basically permission or acknowledgement that it's totally okay to use these items. So for example, if you were, you didn't have the space to put that altar like you just seen in my temple room, or maybe you need to hide it, what I suggest is that maybe you get a box like this. Now, this is just an old box of mine, okay? And typically this box here sits inside a drawer of my praise altar, and inside this is typically charcoals, there's going to be incense, there's going to be lancets, a few items that I need to just pull out quickly and to be able to use and then pack away as well, so my altar space keeps super clean. I'm going to show you that space next. But this box also could be used for something that you could easily slip under a bed or hide away. It doesn't look all scary and witchcrafty, right? It's just a simple box, a little bit tattered. It's not really interesting to anybody that's going to see this box. So it makes for a really good older box. It has a flat, it's a hard cardboard, and it has a flat surface. So this makes for a really good space for for a temporary altar. So it's probably about that big, okay? Now, secondly, oh, I have stuff in here. This is a little bit bigger, okay? A little bit taller as well. But once again, this is a really good type of box, very sturdy top, and it makes for a nice, flat, sturdy altar space. Now, you could use a shoebox as well. Probably a little easier to fit in your closet and not be discovered, right, if it's a shoebox. So feel free to use that. And if you do need to hide it, make sure you don't decorate the outside or make it look too witchy, because you don't want to draw that attention. Okay, let's talk about decorating this temporary altar space. So whatever box you do choose to use, my recommendation is that you only use that box ever for your works of magic or for the works of devotion. The reason that you've got to use this is now it's a magical object. It's part of your temple. Actually, it's your portable temple. So you must consecrate this, and that could be as simple as running it through some incense and just giving it a purpose. You've got to give the box a purpose. Don't get caught up on doing that and watching 10 other videos. Just so long as you create a purpose and give it its name and just cleanse it so with some smoke, so it's now it has the purpose of being your altar for your dark temple, something like that. And now it's forever that object. The next thing you probably want for the top of this is a altar cloth. Once again, if you can afford one, that's great. On the left-hand path, typically what we use is a black or a dark piece of fabric that is now forever just going to be used for that purpose. If you don't have one, maybe like an old bag or dust cover or something that once again, once you've given it the purpose for an altar cloth, it's now forever an altar cloth. It doesn't go back to being your shoe bag Monday to Friday, and then on the weekend you pull it out for your demonic altar cloth. Okay, so now it's forever your little altar cloth, and you will, at the end of the ritual, of course, fold it away and put it in the box. For now, it's going to be sitting on top of your altar space. I'll put it this way so we can see. There we go. The next thing that you want is basically something that's going to represent the spirit. So for example, if I was working with Iglos, I would have his sigil probably put into a nice frame that could be easily flattened, of course, and then easily put away at the end. Okay, but for now, it's in a nice little frame. It's going to sit in the center of my stand. I would just say as well, if that's too much, like if you are living in a place that this would draw too much attention, you can have an object that represents the demonic or Lucifer or Satan to you. So for example, I have a ruby ring here that is now a charged object. And if I couldn't have this there, I would put that in the middle to represent spirit, to represent the deity and my connection to deity. It's a focus point that needs to go here. But if you can, it's always best to have a little statue or a little picture or the sigil of the spirit that sits there. Oh yes, as an idea, with these glass encased candles, especially if you're in the USA, here is the sigil of Lucifer, for example. Makes perfect for a center object as well. And if you had to be creative, you could either put some dirt or sand in there and light incense, and that could be a multi-purpose tool as well. But for now, that could just represent spirit. I'll go back to this picture. It just looks better from my perspective. The other thing that you want on this altar, of course, naturally, is candles. On the left-hand path, we typically use black candles. And altar candles typically go on the outside of the altar space. Purpose candles will sit really just in front of the statue. But for now, for devotional altars, we put it to the outside. The next thing, if you had to have it, is basically an offering glass or bowl. Now, go to your kitchen if you can't if it's not in your budget right now to buy like a proper chalice or something like that, you don't need that. You can go to your kitchen. This is a Chinese teacup. I love these little teacups. Or maybe this is like a soy sauce, a little bowl. This could be a really good offering bowl, and this could be a really good chalice. Now, on the left-hand path, especially the rituals that we do, we normally put our chalice on this side, which is the, where do I look at that? If I was looking at it here, it'd be on my left-hand side, if I was looking at it straight on. And then a dagger would typically go on the right-hand side. So if it was facing me, it's on the right-hand side. The other thing that would go here is incense or some type of fragrance. But the problem is that if you're working in an inside space and you're trying to keep this on the down low, you're probably not going to want to light incense, and that's okay. Of course, the other things that I recommend to have always on hand is little lancets, so you can prick your finger to get that blood drop to give as an offering. So that's my tip. If these candles are too much for you, you can get these little chime candles, and these are really small and easy to pack away as well. They can sit in the little stands. These look really cute as well. Okay, so something like that. So this is, you might look and think, wow, that's cheap and nasty, but it's really not. It's so cute, and it's really highly, highly functional. If you couldn't obtain black candles, that's a common question I get. In some parts of the world, it's hard for you to buy, or they're expensive to buy. Little tea light candles. These are white, but at least, you know, when you're working in a room without electricity on, you need some lighting, and these are good enough. Don't feel like you can't do the ritual properly. Tea lights are just fine. What are some offerings that you can give if you can't offer incense? Flowers. Lucifer loves flowers, typically roses, but if you had some flowers, you could offer them. Honey, wine, of course, is really popular. And as you build the relationship, generally the spirit will let you know if you ask what it wants as an offering. Other things you could keep in your little temporary altar box is, of course, different necklaces or things. Maybe you want to wear them during your ritual, and at the end of the ritual, you could also pack them away in your offering space. Also, in the course, I recommend that if you wanted to chant your N, and so you go through the beads. You could either say it per chant or at certain spaces to keep cadence as you're talking. You could go through the beads. So that's something you could also have in your box. If you were working outside naturally, you would omit the candles, and then you could probably just, maybe you could have incense if you're working outside. But this is going to give you an idea of what you can do on a budget, and also to have a temporary altar. So now we're going to go inside to my personal praise altar, and this is really, really simple, but I want to show it to you just so you can have another idea of a space you can use just for praise. Okay, so this is the space that I do a lot of my actual morning rituals. Lucifer is a day demon, and I wake up normally about 5:30 if I haven't been doing rituals the night before, to give praise in the morning light to Lucifer. So I do have a place where I kneel down and I give my praise and offerings. I also do a little bit of Kundalini yoga whenever I can, and I also give offerings. My praise candles, I'll give them at this altar as well. This altar extends a little way both sides, and there's a black mirror behind here as well that I'm covering. I also have an urn here, and so I've got a couple of quite powerful tools, very symbolic tools that I have on this altar. But everything here though is very clean. Like you'll get to know a working or a spell casting altar or ritual altar can sometimes get super messy if you're using herbs and candles and incense and your book of shadows. There can be stuff everywhere. But this one is a little bit more of a stable altar where it's maybe just giving candles, offering, definitely offering of blood. I put my blood offering directly on the Baphomet here. Also, this is where I have this drawer. Oh, I've taken it out. Generally, I have ritual tools that are all covered in their own bags. And this is actually one for healing. I was doing a healing ritual. But all of these tools here and everything on this altar is designed not to create a gigantic mess. I did a video a long time ago showing you how I made this. I like to make my own tools where and when I can. But all of these are then covered and then put back in their place, and they're just there for that purpose of giving praise, giving offerings, giving my devotion to the Spirit. So let's talk about the setup here. Okay, I have a Baphomet here. It's very much a symbol of the left-hand path for me. And so I'm able to get very much in state when I'm focusing on the Baphomet. Also for me, I like the Baphomet around me all the time. I feel very protected. I feel comfortable. I feel loved. I feel like almost the father figure is watching out for me. Either side of that, I have 2 candles. And these altar candles are only ever lit during a ceremony, and they're put out with a candle snuffer after that ceremony. As I said, on this particular altar, I have an urn, but you don't have to worry about that as well. I have an offering bowl. This offering bowl will change to an offering plate, but what I will do is sometimes when I'm taking off jewelry, various jewelry, I'll leave that in front of my deity, in front of Baphomet, and I'll ask for blessings or recharging of those tools. And very much so, the praise candles are all along and in this area. So that's basically, it's a very simple setup here, but this is all it's about, just so I can focus in on Baphomet, so I can get into state very fast. It's just basically like my church sitting here at this altar. Other things that I can have at this altar, of course this is a black mirror here, but I do have my mala beads as well. So sometimes if I'm needing to calm down and get into state faster, I will definitely use those mala beads to chant the N of the demon to connect with. Sometimes I'll bring a pendulum in here, but I typically don't have a lot of tools in here when I'm giving this praise or devotional work. My book of shadows, of course, there's just too much in this monkey little mind to not have a book of shadows there to help me focus on the rituals. Unless, for example, it's first thing in the morning, I'm just getting out of bed and I'm just giving praise for having Lucifer in my life. This is very much the space for that, and not having to worry about if I'm getting it right. Okay, so let's head back to the temple room and I will conclude this lesson. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to set up an altar if you were doing a ritual and you had an altar space. So let's rearrange this altar here so I can actually show you what to do. In the center of the altar, you're going to have a picture of the demon that you're working with. You're going to put some incense or an offering bowl, and where you're going to place your offering is right in the center. Either side of the statue is normally where I'd have my altar candles. Your chalice would go to the left-hand side, and normally your book of shadows go to the right, and of course your ritual knife also goes to your right-hand side. Now this will change depending on what ritual that you do. When you, I'm just going to use this. set up any ritual, what I'm going to do is light the candles, light the incense, light the candles. And then basically focus, get into state. I might chant Lucifer's N or the demon's N over and over again. And then when I'm finished doing that, I might put my request out there. I'm going to, after I finish my request, I might say a prayer of gratitude, or I'll just close it on down. And that's as simple as what it can be. So that's all I have to share with you about setting up your altars. I hope this has given you lots of great ideas. And if you have any questions, I prefer that you put it under the lesson comments. I'll check that out on Friday. If you have a photo of your own altar you'd like to submit for me to look at, I'm now using Instagram a little bit better, and so put it, I think you do, at Black Witch Savannah, and that'll attach it to my Instagram account, and I'll be able to check it out. I'd love to see your altar spaces. And of course, you know, if you ever have a blog post you want to write about it, I'm more than happy to get an email with how you set it up and some of your pictures as well. Okay, I'm going to see you in the next lesson where we're going to talk about the foil method. Bye.